June 19, 1944. 12 hours, 20,000 feet above the Philippine Sea. The cockpit is already hot. Sweat beads along the inside of the canopy and crawls down the back of the pilot's neck as the Zero hums forward, light and eager, wings trembling with every correction. Below, the ocean glitters like shattered glass. Ahead, tiny black specks. American carriers, American fighters. The hunt has begun. The veteran pilot tilts his head, eyes narrowed, lips curling into something close to a smile. They're flying the fat one today. Laughter crackles over the radio. Short, sharp bursts, confident, almost relaxed. The Grumman F6F Hellcat has been appearing more and more over the Pacific, blocky, thick-winged, heavy. To men who learn to fly an aircraft built like kites and knives, it looks obscene, too wide, too slow to turn, too burdened by armor and steel, a flying truck. The Zero pilot rolls his shoulders and settles into his seat. He has survived Guadalcanal. He has survived the long attrition over Rabaul. He has outturned wildcats and danced with corsairs. He knows the sky the way a swordsman knows distance. Weight is death up here. Agility is life. That belief has carried him through dozens of fights. It is about to betray him. The Zero's controls feel alive, almost breathing, a slight pressure on the stick, and the nose slides obediently. This is how a fighter should feel. No armor plates stealing performance, no self-sealing tanks weighing you down, nothing between you and the sky. Across the formation, another pilot keys his mic. "They can't stay with us in a turn," he says. "Just pull them down." The plan is familiar. Lure the Americans into a horizontal fight, bleed their energy, let their weight work against them. The Zero excels where elegance matters most: tight circles, low-speed control, precision. This is the dance they've mastered. But something has changed. Far ahead, the Hellcats don't scatter, they don't dive recklessly, they don't chase. They hold formation. You can almost feel the unease creep in, not fear, not yet, but irritation. Why aren't they taking the bait? The Zero pilot pushes the throttle forward anyway. The engine responds with a smooth surge. He banks left, then right, showing the Americans exactly what they're missing. The Hellcats respond by climbing. Climbing. That's odd. The Hellcat is not supposed to climb like that. A memory flickers intelligence briefings dismissed months earlier. American industry, new engines, more power. They build planes like they build tanks. Someone had joked, crude, heavy, unsuitable for real aerial combat. The veteran pilot tightens his grip. The Hellcat's Pratt & Whitney engine roars deep and confident as the American pilot pulls up and away. Not bleeding speed, not straining. Thick wings bite into the air and hold. The Zero follows instinctively, nose rising, energy draining faster than expected. The sky feels suddenly larger, emptier. Then the first burst of .50 caliber fire rips past. Not a warning shot, not a long spray. A tight, disciplined stream, bright white streaks snapping through the air with terrifying speed. One round punches through the Zero's wing like paper. Another tears into the fuselage. The pilot jerks the stick, heart slamming now. That was too fast, too accurate. He dives, the Zero shrieking as gravity takes over, airframe vibrating. This is where he's strongest. This is where the Hellcat should fall behind. But it doesn't. The American fighter stays with him, nose steady, gun silent for a moment, waiting. The Hellcat doesn't need to spray bullets. It doesn't need to gamble. It knows it can take a hit. The Zero pilot knows he cannot. He banks hard left, pulling into a turn that would have shaken any earlier American fighter. The G-forces bite. Vision tunnels. For a second, there's relief. The Hellcat overshoots. Then it zooms upward, converts speed into altitude effortlessly, and drops back down like a hammer. Another burst, short, lethal. The Zero shudders. Fuel vapor fills the cockpit. A warning light flickers, then dies. The radio erupts shouts, curses, sudden silence as voices vanish mid-sentence. All around him, the sky is no longer a playground. It is a trap. Below, the American carriers steam onward, untouched. Above, Hellcats circle with patience that feels almost cruel. The veteran pilot had mocked their weight. Now, for the first time in years, he wonders if weight was never the weakness at all. Because in this sky, this new sky survival no longer belongs to the lightest machine. It belongs to the one that can take a punch and keep coming. The Zero is losing altitude fast. Wind screams through the cockpit where metal should be. The smell of fuel is thick now, sweet, choking. The engine coughs, catches coughs again. Every vibration feels wrong, like a bone shifting where it shouldn't be. The pilot glances at his gauges, oil pressure bleeding away. Control response sluggish on the right wing. He has seconds, maybe less, to decide. He pulls the stick back into another turn, harder than before. Black creeps into the edges of his vision. The Zero answers, but it feels tired now, wounded, no longer the razor it once was. Above him, the Hellcat does something unexpected. It doesn't turn with him. Instead, it climbs, straight up. For a heartbeat, the Zero pilot almost laughs. A vertical maneuver in a heavy American fighter? It's suicide. Everyone knows that. Then the Hellcat hangs at the top of its climb, impossibly slow, nose high, wing steady, and fires. The burst comes down like falling steel. Gravity and velocity combine. The rounds slam into the Zero's fuselage with devastating force. One shatters the canopy. Another rips through the cockpit, shredding instruments, tearing fabric and flesh alike. The pilot screams once, then clamps his jaw shut. Training takes over. He shoves the nose down, fighting pain, fighting shock. The ocean is closer now, rushing up with terrifying speed. He knows this aircraft will not protect him. The Zero has no armor behind his seat, no thick glass in front of his face. Every hit counts. Every hit is final. He thinks briefly of earlier days, of instructors who spoke of honor in aerial combat, of duels and turning fights, of agility as purity. Those lessons belong to another war. The Hellcat roars past his left wing, so close he can see the pilot's helmet. Calm, protected behind armored glass, confident in a machine designed not to be perfect, but to be forgiving. The Zero pilot realizes the truth too late. The Americans don't need to outfly him. They only need to survive long enough to kill him. The Hellcat pulls away, climbing again, unconcerned. It can do this all day. It has fuel. It has armor. It has redundancy. It has a pilot who knows that one mistake will not mean death. The Zero pilot makes his final choice. He levels out, trying to nurse the wounded aircraft toward the clouds, anything to break contact. But the engine seizes with a metallic shriek. Propeller freezes. Silence floods the cockpit, broken only by wind. No power. No escape. The Pacific rises vast and indifferent. There is no parachute deployed. There is no radio call. There is only the scream of air and the crushing realization that the war has passed him by faster, heavier, and deadlier than he ever imagined. Above, the Hellcat banks smoothly and rejoins its formation. This is happening everywhere. Across the Marianas, Japanese pilots are discovering the same brutal truth. Their instincts are correct but outdated. Their aircraft can still turn tighter, roll quicker, dance more beautifully. It doesn't matter. The Hellcat is built around a single philosophy. The pilot must come home. Self-sealing fuel tanks absorb hits that would have incinerated a Zero. Armor plates stop rounds that once meant instant death. 650 caliber machine guns deliver overwhelming firepower in short, accurate bursts. And most importantly, the Hellcat's pilots are trained not to duel, but to dominate. Boom and zoom. Climb, dive, fire, extend. Refuse the turn. In 1 week of fighting, the balance of the Pacific Air War collapses. During the Battle of the Philippine Sea, American pilots will call it the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Japanese losses are catastrophic. Veteran aces vanish from the skies, replaced by empty radios and unanswered calls. Kill ratios swing brutally 5-1, then 10-1. The Zero, once a symbol of terror, becomes a liability. And somewhere deep within Japanese command, a realization begins to form, quiet, devastating, irreversible. They are not losing because their pilots lack courage. They are losing because the war itself has changed, and they did not change with it. The ready room aboard USS Enterprise smells of oil, sweat, and burnt coffee. Pilots sit slumped in folding chairs, Mae Wests unzipped, helmets resting at their feet. Some are grinning, some are quiet. A few stare at the deck, hands still trembling, replaying moments that won't leave them alone. A lieutenant with cordite still in his gloves leans back and exhales. "They just kept turning," he says, "like they didn't believe we wouldn't follow." Across the room, a squadron commander nods slowly. He's heard it before. He's been teaching it for months. "Because that's how they used to win," he replies. Out in the Pacific, victory isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with speeches or banners. It arrives in absences, empty bunks, silent radios, enemy formations that never appear. Japanese airfields begin to look different. Fewer experienced men on the flight line. More young faces, faster briefings, shorter goodbyes. The veteran pilots, the ones who taught the Zero's deadly ballet, are gone. And with them goes a way of thinking. For years, Imperial Japanese Navy doctrine had worshipped maneuverability. Aircraft were built around a single sacred assumption: the best pilot would always win a turning fight. Protection was a luxury. Survivability was secondary. If a pilot was hit, he was already dead. That belief made sense in 1941. By 1944, it is fatal. The Hellcat doesn't care about elegance. It doesn't care about beauty. It is the physical embodiment of lessons learned the hard way at Pearl Harbor, at Coral Sea, at Midway. Every plate of armor, every redundant system, every pound of weight is there because someone died without it. You can almost see the philosophy in its shape. Thick wings to absorb punishment, a massive engine to recover energy, controls that stay responsive even when damaged, and a cockpit built like a bunker because an experienced pilot is more valuable than any single airplane. Japanese pilots notice this first in the air. They hit Hellcats, and the Americans keep flying. They score what would have been a kill in 1942, and the enemy simply dives away, trailing smoke, alive. Minutes later, that same Hellcat returns to the fight. The Zero cannot do that. One mistake, one burst, one unseen angle. Done. Back in Japan, engineers understand the problem. New aircraft are rushed forward: the N-1KJ Shiden, the Ki-84 Hayate machines that finally acknowledge speed, firepower, and protection. But it's too late. There are no veteran pilots left to exploit them. Training pipelines are collapsing. Fuel shortages limit flight hours. Young men learn just enough to take off, and sometimes not even that. The Americans, meanwhile, are doing the opposite. Hellcat pilots rotate home. They train replacements. They pass down tactics refined by survival. Each generation enters combat with more experience than the last. It creates a feedback loop. Survivability breeds experience. Experience breeds dominance. By late 1944, Japanese pilots begin avoiding combat altogether. They stay low, they strike at dawn, they flee at the first sign of Hellcats overhead. And still, the losses continue. Somewhere in the wreckage of a shattered Zero, sun-bleached aluminum torn fabric, bullet holes punched clean through the lie of agility, finally dies. The skies no longer belong to the most graceful machine. They belong to the one that forgives human limits. And the Japanese command knows it. What they do next will change the nature of the war and the meaning of sacrifice forever. October 25, 1944. Dawn over Leyte Gulf. Low clouds cling to the water, turning the horizon into a gray smear. On Japanese airfields hundreds of miles away, engines are already warming rough, uneven sounds that echo across cracked concrete and muddy revetments. The men climbing into these cockpits are not veterans. Some have fewer than 100 flight hours, some barely half that. Their hands shake, not from fear alone, but from unfamiliarity. These aircraft are faster than the Zero, heavier, harder to control. They forgive less. And yet, they have been given a mission no pilot can fail. One way. The realization has fully set in now. Japan cannot win the air war. Not with better tactics. Not with better planes. The Hellcat has seen to that. The American carriers sit offshore, protected by layers of fighters that cannot be broken by skill alone. So doctrine changes. If the Hellcat is built to keep its pilot alive, then the answer is to build pilots who do not need to survive. The word spreads quietly at first: Toko, special attack. Volunteers step forward, some out of belief, some out of pressure, some because there is nothing else left to give. Their aircraft are stripped of radios, of armor, of anything that does not help them reach a target at full speed. They are taught one maneuver: aim. Out over the fleet, Hellcats orbit in lazy circles, sunlight flashing off canopies. American pilots see the incoming contacts and feel a familiar confidence. They have faced everything Japan can throw at them. But this looks different. The Japanese aircraft do not turn away. They do not break. They come straight in, engines screaming, wings shuddering under the strain. Something's wrong, one American pilot mutters into his mic. The Hellcats dive. Guns thunder. Tracers tear through wings and fuselages. Aircraft disintegrate mid-air, and still some keep coming burning, shedding pieces, refusing to fall. One Hellcat pilot pulls up hard, heart-pounding, as a damaged Japanese plane flashes past beneath him and slams into a carrier deck in a tower of flame. The shockwave rocks the fleet. The Hellcat has done its job. It has dominated the sky. It has protected its pilots. It has erased the old rules of aerial combat. And in doing so, it has forced the enemy to abandon the idea of survival entirely. Back in the ready rooms, American pilots are quieter now. The victories feel different. There is no duel here, no test of skill, only speed, interception, and the sickening knowledge that the man in the other cockpit is not trying to win, only to die. The Hellcat remains relentless. It intercepts, it destroys, it keeps carriers alive long enough for the war to grind forward. But even this machine cannot stop everything. By the end of the year, the skies are no longer filled with aces mocking weight and armor. They are filled with young men flying straight lines into gunfire. The transformation is complete. A war that began with elegant dogfights has ended in blunt force. And at the center of it, quiet, heavy, unforgiving, flies the aircraft that changed everything. The Hellcat did not just defeat Japan's aces. It erased the world that made them possible.